This is the Minted Podcast, a show for small business owners running a business and a life at the same time. Every day, I get to work with people just like you. You're great at your profession, but dread doing all the operational tasks. It drains your cash and your headspace. If you're at the point where you are done winging it, but outsourcing or hiring still feels a step away, this show is for you. Hi, I'm Lisa Morey, the founder of Mint Agency, and today we're answering this question. How do I implement structure into a charity so it runs as a business? To help us to do that, I'm speaking with Katie Francis, the co-founder and president of Bloss. All right, let's get minted. Katie, welcome. Thank you for coming today.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Before we jump straight into the question we're answering, it'd probably be good for our listeners to find out a little bit more about Bloss, who you are and how it all come about.
Yeah, thank you. Bloss is a name that we came up with, which is kind of a merge on baby loss. So we officially are known as Bloss Riverina Pregnancy and Baby Loss Support. So what we do is we provide support in the community for families who have lost a baby or child through pregnancy and early loss. We do a range of different activities, like we have some care packs, we do community events for Remembrance and Mother's Day, some grief and loss healing workshops and retreats, and provide whatever support the families need. How we come about was that I myself, my own personal experience with baby loss. In 2016, my daughter Lara was stillborn at 27 weeks. And after that, I just felt really alone, and I wanted to reach out and connect with other people who may understand my journey. Through that, I did connect with a couple of other women, and we connected and we identified that there was a real gap in the supports in the community. So we started doing some coffee catchups and, little get-togethers, and we grew from there. So, yeah, we started in 2018. We probably connected in about 2016, 2017. And by 2018, we'd grown and realised, we might need to look at what's happening here and how do we want to get support and fundraise. And then we needed to tackle a whole lot of governance stuff around incorporation and committees and what does that look like. So formally 8 years later, here we are, and we've grown incredibly. We have great community support, and we are purely run by a volunteer committee.
I'm very grateful for your openness because that has brought on Bloss being founded and going very strong, growing as well with all your charities and awareness. Touching on that, I have a lot of people around me personally, and I'm sure other listeners do too, that have went through baby loss, whether it's early on or later during the term. They don't talk about it. I know about it because I've got that relationship with them, but there's a lot of people still around them that don't know about it. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think people don't talk about it?
I think it's different for everybody. Historically, it's always been a bit of a taboo and nobody talks about it, and it was just covered up. So over the years, we've connected with a lot of older women and people, even men, families in particular, that say, I'm a grandmother, I'm 80 and I actually had a loss back in the 50s or whatever, and nobody knew about it. It wasn't understood, I think. And now even it's a really personal experience as well, but it is really isolating. So it is, I think it's around acknowledging that life from conception. So Bloss do acknowledge that whole journey from conception until birth. And so we do support anyone at any time period that has a loss, and even some people who are going through challenging IVF journeys as well and having sort of missed opportunities. So we just wanted to provide that opportunity for people to connect and reflect and honour their babies in their own way. I think people don't know the hardest thing is that if you are preparing for a baby, you know what to you don't always know what to expect, but you prepare for your baby and having a live baby. So when that doesn't happen, it's not something you can ever prepare for or understand. I feel like people generally could feel quite lost and really just don't know how to express that to other people. It is, everyone does manage grief in their own way, and that's totally okay. And some people are still really private. But often we find it's just about finding someone who's had a similar experience who actually knows how difficult it is, because maybe part of it is that it is really hard to put in words sometimes. And I think for men too, we find they may not openly express what's going on for them, but they do appreciate being in the same space with people that they know have had the same journey. So they know inside how that hurts their heart, their mind, their family, their visions for the future or whatever. It is still a grief. And as a community, sometimes overall we do sort of not always manage grief well, and that it is still a lifetime journey that, it doesn't have to present every day, but some people it does, some people it doesn't. Some people manage in different ways and are able to progress forward. And I think it's just around accepting kind of a new normal moving forward. So overall, I think grief is a really tricky spot to process for everybody. And in particular, when it's such an unknown for some people, that baby loss experience is another complexity.
Have you noticed a change since you first started coming up with the whole idea of Bloss? 2018, was it? Have you noticed a change since then where people are more open about it, or do you find people are still quite private?
No, I think people are really more open about it. And I think sometimes as you don't know how people are going to react, or often people don't know if you're trying to talk to them, they may not know what to say. So it's really just around having that open conversation and just listening. Like, people don't have to have the answers, but it's just an acknowledgement that people have had this experience and a tough time, and just to be patient with people if they've experienced that. Think about those little things, like you may celebrate their live children's birthdays, and just an acknowledgement for when anniversaries or birthdays are for the children and the babies that are no longer here. I think there is some really openness about considering it, just considering that journey for people that are close to you, that you know, that have had those experiences. And sometimes things might present at different milestones when their child may have been starting school or their other child started school, and thinking about siblings and things like that. It's just having just a bit of compassion for people and around that. Sometimes things can be challenging for them, and being considerate of what they might need and just asking them, and they might say, oh, no, I'm okay, I don't need anything. But it's just, I guess, keeping that door open. Nationally as well, with some of the sort of peak organisations have been over the years doing a lot more around awareness around, the significance of the statistics as well. There is a really high prevalence for 6 babies are stillborn in Australia every day, and that hasn't changed in decades. So
it's massive.
Yeah, and I think it's 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage. So it does really touch a lot of people, and we just want to have a space for them to be able to share that as well.
Yeah. Could you share some tips for myself and anyone listening on what you should or shouldn't say? It is, like you touched on, it's a hard thing, and, you just kind of have to be an ear for them and a shoulder to cry on, an ear to listen. But what are the do's and don'ts in that situation when they tell you?
I think it's just really acknowledging it. So, I'm really sorry that's happened to you. I don't know how you feel, but unless you've had a similar experience yourself. So it's not like, oh, yeah, I know how you feel, because unless you've experienced, you don't. But you can say things like, I'm sure that would be really tough. And like I said, just being open and supportive and just being really honest. I don't know what to say or do. Can you let me know? Or definitely it's okay to say the baby's names as well if they've named them or whatever. Don't avoid it. Don't say, oh, it's okay, you can have another baby, or just move on. This is life. It is a lifetime journey. It's just acknowledging the experience. Don't cross the road when you see someone, which is, I think's happened to me. People are purposely avoid me, which I know it's uncomfortable for them. It's uncomfortable for me too, but
yes.
And look, it is a difficult situation, but that moment of being uncomfortable is for everyone as well. And it's still, sometimes it's really hard. People will say to me, how many kids do you have? And I go, 2, because I have 2 living children. And sometimes, and then my kids will say, 3. And then I've got to explain. And sometimes I don't necessarily want to explain to the lady at the supermarket.
Yes.
But, it is something, obviously, then we're really open in our family. We talk about it. And she is part of our family. And then I feel guilty because I'm like, okay, I'm caught out. And not that I don't want to acknowledge my daughter. Sometimes it just can create a conversation I'm not in a space where I can have. So I think, look, just be genuine and kind and honest, and don't just ignore it if it comes up. So you don't have to specifically engage or encourage conversation.
And it is hard. It's like when someone, loses a family member. You're like, do I say I'm sorry to hear, what can I do? Or do they just want everyone to leave them alone? They're sick of hearing from all their close friends and family. It's so hard to know.
It is.
So that's really good advice. Let's shift focus a little bit. Let's go back to the business side and behind the scenes. So you've started a charity from scratch.
Yep.
How much has it changed? Where are you at? What have you had to do? How's the whole journey been for you and everyone else involved?
Big. Rewarding. And look, I think when we first started, we did do a bit of due diligence, I guess, and we had a look around to see where could we look at operating under a larger organisation. We found that the organisations that were similar to what we wanted to do were all in major cities and didn't do any outreach. They used to at times. They really just didn't have the capacity to do that and what we wanted to do and retain funds locally, I guess, and go back straight into the local community. So I think that initially we were quite small. We did a few activities, volunteer committee, all good, got our incorporation and followed the guidance around setting up the constitution and all this. But then as we started to look at becoming more sustainable and people wanted to donate and support us, which was amazing. But where did we go on a larger scale? So we then registered as a charity, and then we could provide tax invoices for businesses that were donating and sponsoring us. And I guess it just came with a whole lot of governance requirements, which fortunately, we were kind of okay with. But as we grew, I guess we found harder and harder. Like I said, all volunteer committee, we all had our own families, work, life, and we were getting lots more requests for support, and we wanted to be really able to deliver that. But we were limited in our capacity as volunteers. So we needed to probably shift our focus and be a little bit more strategic. We then weighed up, how do we get to that next stage and be more strategic, have a bit more of an operational model, have some structure, have some guidance. So we started looking into some contractors, and we reached out. We had some consultants come in and do some planning stuff with us, which allowed us to have an underlying structure for the platform we wanted to deliver. It was a really tough kind of call sometimes because we have had such really good support around fundraising. We have received one-off grants. We don't get ongoing funding through grants or government programs or anything. So we're purely really run on our fundraising and sponsorship and donations. And we want to be able to honour and give that directly back to the community. But we also needed to understand that to be sustainable and not burn our volunteers out and be able to share the load, we needed to think a little bit more strategically about how we could be sustainable and deliver what we wanted. So we then, as we're developing our budgets, we looked at and researched, was it okay to have administrative overheads for a charity, and are we still honouring what we wanted to do? So it is okay, and we do it, and plenty of big charities employ staff. So we looked at a whole range of of the way we could kind of operate to deliver the supports we wanted, but also have the backing in some of the administrative work. As I said, we got some consultants and now contracting with Mint as well. It is really helpful because what it allows us to do is to have a structure. We can do the doing and have our presence in the community. We still do all the direct support stuff except for the clinical support. So anything that is out of our level of experience and skill, we contract out. We still organise and attend our community events and our workshops and do all that. But certainly some of the more complex areas that really take a lot of time for us to nut through, we were able to, with your help, sit down and identify what were our pain points, what was really holding us up, what was holding us back, what do we do well, and where do we need the help. So that was really good, I guess, separate all those things out and where's our skill level, where do we need help with, and identify a balance about how do we get the support, what can we contract out and what can we deliver ourselves. So.
Yes, and that balance is so hard, isn't it? Whether it's a charity or business, trying to get that work-life balance. And as you're growing, like you have grown the charity a lot. So, you know, to be able to sustain it, there needs to be some form of structure, clearly.
Yeah.
Which is what you've identified.
Yeah, absolutely. And we needed structure to be sustainable, but also look at our future planning, like future sustainability and succession planning. As much as we would all love to say, hey, we want to do this forever, and there's new people and it's okay to have new people come in and new ideas and new goals. We will be, I think, at the end of this year reviewing our strategic plan about our next 3 to 5 years about what we want to achieve and where we've come to and where do we want to go. That structure allows us to also bring other people in, that succession planning about new people who might want to take on a role on the committee, which is more than welcome. And you don't have to have had your own personal experience. We do have other people on our committee who haven't, but who are just genuinely want to support in this area. And look, as you talk to people like we have today, if you actually sit down and talk, I don't think I've come across anyone who hasn't known somebody because, like I was saying, the prevalence is really high. So you don't have to have had your own personal loss experience, but just some compassion and want to support in that area. And we do have really great links with clinicians and hospitals and everything that can help us guide some of that more clinical work as well. So that's a really important link, the clinical side, but also for us, the administrative operational side as well. And then what can we deliver in our volunteer capacity and what do we do? They're probably those sort of main areas.
A lot of balancing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you want to be there for people, but how can you be there for people if you're working full-time and all your committee members are working full-time? I can only imagine the juggle. What kind of structure have you found is working for the charity, like as you're trying to work out exit plans and people coming in and
I think the strategic plan was a really good starting point for us, and then we looked at some policies and procedures. Probably more what we're working on now a bit is our regular events and having that organisation, I guess, around what do we need to do and in a time frame to get ready for those, because we were finding that we were still doing it but at last minute. A month out, where are we at? Just being more organised and prepared. So I think then that has helped us as a committee, and I think just having those processes in place, so then not that they can't be changed, but I think then we have a structure, a policy, a process, and identifying lead people for certain tasks and being able to then, I think, new people coming on, it's not so overwhelming that, I've got to know everything or do everything. We've actually got skilled people that do certain things for us within the committee and external to that. Yeah, just having a range of resources and tools that we use. Yes. And it's not just up to one person or one person on the committee or just the committee. We've actually got a whole support structure around us.
Does everyone on the committee have their own individual roles, or is it everyone jump in, or who's available? How do you work the delegation side of all that back end?
Yeah, so we have the exec part of our committee with your president, vice president, secretary and treasurer. So they all have specific governance roles that they oversee. Then our other general members, they all sort of have their interest area, I guess, and their skill set. So one is particularly focused on the community connections pathway and really networking and awareness in the community. Another one is really great for our fundraising, hands-on, organising raffle tickets and stuff like that. Others have a bit more of a creative flair where they'll add all the extra touches to our events or activities we do. So all those nice little additions that happen from their creative space. So there's a whole lot of different things. When we're looking at approaching an event, like our main community event, which is our Remembrance Walk in October, everybody's involved in that. And we have like a run sheet, a task list we go through and who's doing what. Other events that we have, like our Bereaved Mother's Day activity, we'll have one or two committee members take the lead on that and the others just support if we need it or as needed. For our community events, it is great if all our committee members can come and help hands-on, but we acknowledge people have got their own commitments and lives. So there's no expectation that everyone's got to be involved in everything and attend everything. Then it's just around what works for people and like you said, having a balance. But because we've got such a good network through our structure, our committee and the community, we're able to balance that out. So people can still have that work-life balance and community work and charity stuff. So they don't feel pressure that they're going to be like burnt out or overwhelmed, that they've got to do everything.
Yes, and then they drop off because volunteers are hard to get.
Volunteers are hard, absolutely. And look, everyone does lots of things in their everyday life. Their sport, whatever, like, you know, school activities or lifestyle choices. And you find that people do give in every day. And then when you add an extra level, you know, it's a lot. And I don't know, I feel like, you know, in lots of organisations that I am involved with, as I just said, like with kids' sport and school and everything as well, I like to be able to be involved and have a presence. And it is hard to get volunteers when everyone's lives are so busy and full. So that's why we really try and balance out for our committee that there isn't that expectation that we're doing too much or they've got to be everywhere. We acknowledge everyone's individual capacity and what they can contribute is great. And sometimes if it's, you know, one thing for the year, that's what it is. But we're also having a lot of those conversations, like we have our monthly meetings and that. So they're still contributing with what our purpose is. Are we aligned? Where are we going? Are we on track for where we want to be? And are we organised in our next event? Yeah.
And on that work-life balance or family life balance, charity life balance, you are a superwoman and you do volunteer a lot. You're someone who can't say no.
I'm getting better at it, setting my boundaries.
Yes.
Listening to podcasts.
Whatever works. How do you do it?
Look, it's something I've probably had to really reassess in the last couple of years because my family does miss some of my time and I miss some of their time, which isn't ideal. So I did have to reassess and how does it fit my purpose as an person. One thing I really love to have is support for my kids and my community and have a presence. So we get a lot out of that in terms of connections to the community and other people. I think it's around, for me, I really assessed my purpose, but I did have to set some boundaries. So really look at how I organise my time and was it impacting on my family time or making sure I had enough family time as well and I wasn't doing things that were taking me away from that. Yes, I do a bit of like early morning scheduling and to-do lists and emails that I try and do it where my family don't need me at that time. So I give myself a bit of time, but I've also got to schedule in some time for myself, which I'm getting better at. But yeah, it is a juggle, but being able to connect in this capacity has, in particular for me, reduced my load enormously. And I can even just send an email, do a brain dump, hey, thinking about the next steps, this is where we're at, and it happens. And I get back, hey, we've done this, and this, and we're like, great.
Yes. You're obviously organised, like an organised person.
I do like to be organised and a bit structured myself, like sometimes a bit overly structured. So I need to remember that I can have some flexibility as well. I do have this to-do list and I check it off and just, I guess, just try and sort of follow that. But be kind to myself and go, I can't do everything all in one day. I need to actually think about scheduling things in and scheduling time, like I said, for my family and that and myself, but also when I'm not available. Hey, look, I'm actually going to have this weekend off. So I actually need to be really clear on my boundaries too.
Yes.
I have a lot of trust and faith in people around me as well, and our network. It's working really well. So I don't have to be responsible for everything.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing. Whether you're a business owner, founder of a charity, whatever it is, even in your family, like trying to trust anyone. If you're, I know myself, like I'm high standards, perfectionist, OCD, like, it takes time to on that self-development to go, it's okay if people don't do it the exact same way as you do. And look, if they get 99% the end result or 90% the end result is what you do, like, does it really matter? Because it's one thing off your chest, isn't it? And out of your head as well.
And I think too, it allows other people to develop their skills and grow. And I think that's a good thing too, sharing the load, letting people take the lead on things and be responsible for that within their capacity and then their ability to grow and learn too. And that helps me when we've got a really good functional committee that are happy to do stuff and, no worries, run with it. That sounds great. And, where we need the extra support, where do we get that from? Do we have the capacity to deliver it ourselves? And be really honest about that too. Okay, I do have the capability to do that, but it's actually probably going to take me a few weeks to do. It's going to impact on my time. How is that going to impact on my health and well-being?
That's right.
What could we potentially outsource that? And where is my energy better directed?
That's right. Yeah. You touched on the grant topic because I've always, I don't know, I just this has been oblivious to the whole charity side of it, not seen until the past few years, the depth of work that goes in behind the scenes. Like always knew people volunteered and put a lot of time in, but I've really had my eyes open, and the grants being available is actually not as easy as what you might think. You think being a charity, like you'd be able to get funding, somewhat easy for events and ongoing support, but clearly it's not actually like that.
No, so a lot of the grants are usually for one-off projects or activities, not ongoing. We have got some small one-off grants for events and different things that we have trialed, like our workshops, which has been fantastic. But then to be sustainable, then we're still coming up with that money, I guess, through fundraising. In terms of funding, as separate to one-off grants, in terms of funding, there's other benchmarks that you would need to apply for and lobby for and actually have a look where there may be some ongoing, but we haven't sort of gone to that yet. That it is really challenging because the budgets come down from the governments and then you look at funding and then they might have a tender that they could do. So we fall under the perinatal mental health space, which is really challenging because when we actually look at that, most of the supports are around people with live babies. So there is some, I'm not saying there's none, but it's just a matter of trying to make those connections into those organisations. We are really working hard on our next steps around our community connections and community organisations or health systems. Like, how do we connect better in there? And again, what could we do in collaboration or partnership, or where would we still identify more of a gap where we can actually look at potentially, is there an opportunity to look at some funding? But to get that, we need systems and data. And all the information that backs it up. Same as if you're applying for a grant. There's lots of things to put together that we do. We have had some consultation at times, but most of it, all the grant writing, we do ourselves, and they take a lot of time.
They do. It's hours and days and weeks, and there is so much time and effort that goes into it. And like you said, there's so many wonderful charities out there. There isn't enough money for everyone. So, you are lucky when you do get some kind of funding or a grant.
And the grants don't usually cover to employ somebody.
Yes.
So the grants will cover your expenses, like more things like activity costs, advertising, resources, print materials or posters or whatever. They won't generally cover, you can employ someone for 3 months to do this job and to organise this. So we're still coordinating everything and doing those things anyway. So they have limits.
Yes.
So if you wanted to employ someone, you would need to have a look at employing someone under a charity and thinking about all the tax implications and all the things that go with that as well. So that's kind of why we haven't really gone down that. That's just another complexity. I'm not saying in the future maybe, but then that's where the ongoing funding comes from then, would be sort of more of an employee expense, I guess, to do a lot of the things. It's been good that we can look at ways around how do we still get the support without having to employ someone.
Yeah.
Which has been really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and offloads a bit. And it's a bit of that, the consistency as well, isn't it? So people from the committee could come and go and volunteers come and go, but there's some kind of system in place and structure where there's that consistency with the service that's being delivered. You've got your checklist and, like you said, procedures and policies.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, what we do, it fluctuates. So we can contract people for more hours when the time needs, and then we can reduce that when it's maintenance level stuff. So generally over November, December, January, where we don't do a lot, we give ourselves a bit of a break, but then we try and get our next year stuff started in November and then look again at February. We're getting better at that. So to look at our preparation then and lock everything in that we want to do, and then we can better manage things that just come up at ad hoc as well.
Have you found any programs to be useful with the management side of things? Are you a programs person, or are you just, email communication? Have there been any programs or systems you've implemented that have helped you along the way?
Yeah, look, I don't think we're using it to its full functionality, but we started looking at a database and where we could do stuff. So we're using monday.com. I don't know if that's the best system to use, only because I think we haven't probably expanded our own knowledge on the functionality and getting everyone on board. So definitely email. We use a lot of email. But yeah, it does allow us to capture information, but there's a couple of systems that we'll integrate to that I know, again, we don't really hold the expertise in. So we're happy to outsource that stuff. So I know that we've used MailChimp for the email correspondence. I don't really know how to set that stuff up. I can go, sure, that sounds good. For our events booking, we use TryBooking. We've got a Square to use our online finances. So our level of the programs is probably fairly immature, I guess. We probably still need some support around being able to integrate it, because as we're talking about it, I was like, that sounds like our next goal for our strategic plan. Actually, what a great idea, because it does allow efficiencies, and I think we can always grow and learn. So it would be great to understand better what systems we use. And of course, we use Xero for our financial management as well. But again, understanding all the features around budgeting and projections and things like that. So it'd be great if we could see, yes, are we using the ones that are the most appropriate? Is there a better system out there? And how do we bring it all in together that they talk to each other? So, and that data is something that we really do need to get to grow in what we're doing. So then we do actually have that information that we can use for grants and funding. We're getting better at it, but I wonder if it's a little bit disjointed across our system. But they work, so we use our email and our Google Drive and stuff.
Yes.
But I still feel like that's a little bit immature, is that the word?
More to develop still.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's opportunity there, absolutely.
And you're only in the early stages of the structure side of it anyway. So you're still all trying to find your feet on, okay, what's going to work for us? Because what works for one charity might not work for the next.
And I think we've got to remember the skill and the knowledge of our volunteers as well, our volunteer committee. Sorry, we have volunteers that will do things as well, but also our committees. As we want to streamline some of these systems, which is a really great next step, we need to understand what their capacity is to use some of those systems.
Yeah, and the user-friendly side of it, because when they're too complicated, they won't be used. Like we see it all the time. For anyone listening, besides donating, is there anything else people can do to help Bloss grow or to get the word out? What can we all do as a community to help Bloss?
Yeah, look, I think check out our website, follow us on socials and share our information so people are welcome to attend our events. Often we try and really offer community events and things that are open for anybody. In terms of a support activity, we offer at low cost, if not no cost, because we don't want finances to be a barrier, which then I guess impacts our fundraising. So we really try and keep them separate so people can fundraise, come to our fundraising activities. You know, if we have a trivia, you can come get a table together. But really just sharing our information is really good. For businesses, we're happy to do little talks and put a pack together, have a morning tea. So for us, it's really about awareness. And then if you connect with someone that you know has had loss, sharing our information, hey, I saw this local organisation that does this. We're always happy to people have on our committee, or don't have to be on the committee. We have like a Friends of Bloss group that sometimes when we are running events and we go, hey, we're looking for a few volunteers. Is anyone available? And they're like, yeah, I'll come and sell some raffle tickets for you. So you can volunteer your time as well. It's not just about the financial contribution. It's about sharing, like awareness, like sharing the information, coming to our fundraising events or coming to our community events.
And when you just mentioned about letting people know if they have a loss. Have you heard of Bloss? Obviously, I wouldn't contact Bloss and say, look, I've got a friend, they're struggling. Can you please reach out to them? Like, would you do that, or is it only by telling the actual person?
Yeah, so we would still need some kind of understanding of from the person who is involved. So absolutely, we have people reaching out though, saying, hey, I've had a friend who's had a loss. Can you give me some ideas or know where to go? And we're more than happy to provide that information to them. We couldn't reach out directly unless we had their details and they were happy for you to pass them on, which is fine. But I think the important thing is it doesn't have to be a recent loss either. So Bloss is about a lifetime journey. So we do connect with people who have had recent losses or maybe some time ago. And I think I mentioned before, it is really a lifetime experience and journey. So it might be at the time where, hey, look, you know, my friend or me, I had a loss 5 years ago. I'm really having a difficult time. Can I reach out to someone? So we do have a counsellor, social worker who is contracted to offer support and sessions to individuals, families, siblings, whoever. And like I said, there's no time period that needs to be within, like doesn't have to be recent. And it might look different for every individual and every family. They'll also look at, do we need to connect with other things, or, you know, do you need some support with something? Through that process, we can help identify any practical solutions for people. Self-care for them might look like going to have a facial or a massage, or just allowing people to have that time to heal and to reflect and to process what they need to in their own time period. We're really open to hear from people at any time. On the website, there's a really quick connect, just your name and number, I think, and just a little message like, hey, this is my situation. Can you offer anything? So always ask. Don't feel like you can't reach out and just ask the question, I think. And we can help guide you through that process if you're supporting yourself or somebody else.
And if they reach out to Bloss and, like you just mentioned, then they can have some counselling. Is that funded by Bloss?
Mm-hmm.
It
Yep,
is. So that's a
100%.
huge burden where you just like completely lifted from their shoulders, isn't it?
100% funded by us, and there's no waiting time. So generally our counsellor can get you in within a couple of days. So we found that if there's lots of different services around, but often there's a wait list and significant wait list. And when you're ready that you might want to see someone, we don't want time and financial to be an impact for people. So absolutely, we can get that happening. It's face-to-face, it's local. She can do telehealth if people would like that, but we do acknowledge that a lot of people do like the in-person, like the face-to-face. For counselling, telehealth does work great for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone. If people wanted some support but don't feel they're ready for counselling, that's okay too, because things look different. People heal in different ways. So that's why we're actually starting to organise our next retreat as well, which is really just about, self-care, different ways that might look for people, yoga, mindfulness, whatever works for people. We just really want to acknowledge the differences in individuals and being able to support them in their journey. So, and I think back to the counselling as well, sometimes people might have to go to their GP and get a treatment plan to get referral so you can get a Medicare rebate. We might still encourage that, but it wouldn't be at the start. So, again, it's very overwhelming, and I have done that myself, gone to the GP and talked through and gone through that process, and it is there, it is a system, it is very overwhelming, but then you still got to generally wait for a service after you go through all of that. So we're happy to connect you early, get some immediate supports in, and then help guide you through those next steps if that's something that you would like to do. We're just restarting our coffee catchups too in March. So that's a small group that we have at a cafe, and we catch up regularly and just chat. And honestly, we chat about everything. Life, that's a peer connection. So it is with people on the committee who have had our own losses as well, because we're also on our own healing journey too. There are times that we do want to connect and sometimes we don't, and that's okay. We like to offer a number of different mediums, I guess, for people to connect, whether it's individually, whether it's counselling, whether it's in a small group, as a workshop, as a retreat, as more of a group activity, or as an open sort of community event. That's why we just really wanted to offer different platforms and mediums for people to connect.
And such a good idea, because we all do go through life differently, like whether it's losses or the way you learn. Like we all have our own way of getting through life, don't we? And I like the fact that you mentioned earlier the husbands or the partners or the men, because for men, I would imagine it would be just as hard for them when they feel or see their partner is essentially broken. They're so upset, they've had the heart ripped out. They want to try and fix it, but they feel helpless. Is it as hard for the men? Like, do they say much about their side of it, or are they purely there to support the females?
Yeah, look, I think they do take on that protector kind of support role, but they have their own grief journey too. We, in Wagga, there is in our area, there's the George Murray and Hamish Howard Foundation who does actually support activities for men. So they do different things. We've done a few things, but we've certainly found our collaboration and, connection with them. And they're two guys, Ben and Jared, that run that. And so it's run by men and it's for men and it works really well. And, our partners all go to their activities and they join in on ours too. So absolutely, they do like a golf day. They might go to the races. They might have a beers and bet day, or just to catch up. The men's stuff is kind of focused on an activity. But again, they're in that group stuff together. I know my husband goes and he really enjoys it. He looks forward to their events each year, and he just feels that sense of connection because he knows that there's other blokes there that have gone through the same thing. My husband's not a big talker, but I know that it's obviously very difficult for him too, but he was threw himself back into work straight away, didn't have much time, just needed to be busy. So we find that probably with guys, and again, like they're all different, but most of them do like that connection through activity, through being busy and something, but being in that same space. Not saying that individual support isn't warranted at some times, because absolutely it is. But again, it's just everyone's different, and sometimes people might need more support, sometimes less, sometimes it fluctuates. It's just our roller coaster of life.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Now, to wrap up, I think for our listeners, probably one of the biggest takeaways, well, one is to be able to support Bloss, which you've mentioned how we can all do it. You don't have to be in the Riverina as such. Donations and support's always welcome outside too, to help those going through a loss. From the business side of things, though, I think it'd be great to just gain your knowledge and what you've learnt over the years as well, growing a charity from scratch. For anyone else that is looking to start a charity, or maybe they're looking to grow it, maybe they haven't got the support and connections to get the donations like you guys do, what would be your advice to anyone listening?
I think initially would be do your due diligence, have a look around at what's already available and what's there, and is there a gap, or can you make connections, or can you run, and it's totally okay to create a new charity, but can you actually work in alignment with somebody? So recently we've partnered with a group in Griffith because we had this whole, they asked us like what we did and this whole governance discussion, and they're like, we just don't think that we can do that. And we're like, you know what? We're more than happy for you guys to come on. Let's do a partnership. You guys run it as a sub program under us and we'll support you with that. So that's really new. We've just released it. It's really exciting. They're getting the support in the governance they need. We're doing some, cross awareness, and it's just increasing our reach and support across our area. So that's one of the things. Do your due diligence and understand that it is absolutely possible to create a charity and do it all, but it does take a lot of work and a lot of volunteer. Generally, we're volunteers, so it takes a lot of time. Once those things are set up, then things can kind of continue, but it is a lot of really manpower time to set that up initially. So that's what I would say is, really be open to ways in how you can operate in the community.
And very good too, because I imagine it's hard and there's probably times where you're like, is this worth it? And same as when you're in business as well. But you just, like I always say, go back to your why. Why did you start it? And it's working. Like the amount of people you guys have been able to support. You've achieved what you set out to achieve. And if other people can, over time, as other committee members and volunteers have to step away, and if other people can step in, like this is your legacy and everyone else's legacy to leave for others to step in. And
and I think that's probably the next takeaway is really around consider the sustainability.
Yes.
What do you need? And you don't have to be experts in everything and have a really amazing business mind, but you do need to have some thought around that organisational structure. How's it sustainable? Because, it sounds formal, but we're still a little informal too. Like, we do have great personal connections on our committee, have a good chat. We all get along really well. So we do have our regular meetings, but we can have a joke and we're not all just like business focused. But it is really just about understanding the structural needs, finding that support so you can be sustainable, whatever that looks like. Because then otherwise that's where you find, I think, some programs don't continue, might stop, might be short-lived. And sometimes I guess, things might just be for a period of time. But if you do want to have that ongoing legacy, you really do need to be sustainable and have a more business approach, but be able to know where to go to get that support. You don't have to do it alone. So you can absolutely research, look out into opportunities where you can actually work smarter, not harder, I guess, and still be able to be true to your purpose and your why.
Yeah, love it. What a great way to finish. Thank you so much for your time. If you would like some more tips on how to help you in your small business, visit the link in the show notes to sign up to our newsletter. Until next time, stay fresh and stay kind.